Hi, my name is Casey Conjero with Monarch Housing Associates. I am here to do the 2020 point in time training with those of you that could not join us in person. So as you know, the 2020 point in time count is January 29th of 2020, and we will be asking people about where they stayed the night of January 28th. This training will go through an introduction of who we are counting, the sheltered and unsheltered count procedures, general guidelines, survey definitions, tips for conducting interviews. We will in-depth go through the survey questions as well as inputting the data online, completing the survey questions online, and the HMIS data collection. So the point in time quick reference guide, we will provide via email to anyone that does not have it, and it is also on our website. This is kind of your cheat sheet for any terms that are used in the survey, any definitions that you may need that can assist you to better complete the survey. These links here are on the HUD exchange. They give you the kind of HUD guidance behind the point in time methodology as well as their data collection. So what is the point in time count? The point in time count is a count of homeless persons in a given area on a single night. So the point in time count should be statistically reliable, unduplicated. It should include the sheltered and unsheltered populations in your community. It is a HUD requirement that it's conducted during the last week of January, and it is planned, coordinated, and carried out locally. So why do we do a point in time count? We do a point in time count to gather data for local homeless planning purposes. So we want to know who is homeless, where they are finding shelter, factors that are contributing to homelessness in the community, and what services are needed by the homeless. And again, this is a HUD requirement for COC funding. Who to count in the point in time count? A person should be counted as homeless if that person is unsheltered, and which means they are sleeping somewhere that is not designated as a regular sleeping accommodation. So maybe if they are squatting in an abandoned building, sleeping in their car, or sleeping in the woods. Someone who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. So maybe they're staying in an emergency shelter, a transitional housing situation. Those that are at risk of homelessness are those doubled up with other people, maybe living in an illegal dwelling unit, so squatting in a unit, someone being discharged from jail or prison, or a health facility, an inpatient hospitalization, or residing in a motel unit that is being paid for by the household. So for 2020, we are going to do an unsheltered count, and that is always completed with the paper survey. So you would complete an interview with the person. For those that are in shelter, if that sheltering program enters into HMIS, we would ask that you go in and update HMIS to reflect the night of January 28th, 2020, and be sure that everything in there is accurate and up to date, so that we can get an accurate count of your sheltered population. And if the sheltering agency is not in HMIS, please complete paper surveys. Sheltered programs will submit a shelter summary form, which I'll go over in a minute. And those that are at risk of homelessness, you can complete a paper survey. This is your sheltered summary form. So for any agencies that are entering into HMIS, we Monarch are going to be doing a data poll that Friday night after the point in time count. So that initial Friday, we'll do one data poll, and we ask that you have these shelter summary forms back to us by Friday the 1st, so that we can do a comparison of the data we pull to what who you said was in your program the night of the 28th. This is your paper survey, which we are going to go into detail about in a bit. When is the point in time count? It is Tuesday, January. We are conducting the surveys from the evening of Tuesday, January 28th at midnight through January 29th. Most communities this year are going to be completing a 7-day service-based count. So for the unsheltered population, so this means that you would be able to ask any unsheltered homeless person that you encounter the week after. So until Wednesday, February 5th, you would be able to ask them where they stayed on the night of January 28th and complete and input a survey. Some general guidelines. Only one survey should be conducted per household, and a household is defined as any group of persons who would be housed together if they were able to obtain permanent housing. So this does not have to just be the traditional mom, dad, and 2 children. It could also be brothers who state that they would live together if they were able to get permanent housing, or friends that wanted to live together if they were able to get permanent housing. It could be nieces and nephews, whatever the household they identify as. Surveys should be conducted by interviewers. We do ask that you not give the survey out for the homeless person you're interviewing to fill out. There's a lot of technical language on there, and there's also a lot of abbreviations. So we ask that you fill them out for the person you're interviewing. That way we can ensure that we're getting accurate data as well as legible data. Don't read all the answer options to the respondent unless the question says to check all that applies. And if no response is given to any question on the survey, you can leave that blank. Except for question 6, relationships to head of household, age, gender, race, and ethnicity. Please guess these for the respondent. And the respondent may guess if they're unsure about other household members. If no response is given to question 1, then complete the survey. If you are a veteran program, label all clients as veterans or served in the armed forces. And if you are a domestic violence program, you would label all your clients as staying domestic violence. If your program is in HMIS, paper surveys from your program will not be counted unless it identifies that clients stayed in a location other than the program location. And during deduplication, an agency-conducted paper survey will be used over a duplicate from another count location. HMIS records will be used over duplicate surveys. Some more general guidelines. Any HMIS participating programs that are entering multiple services into the same program in HMIS will not be able to have their information pulled, so you would have to do a paper survey. So for instance, say you have some monies that are used for prevention, so paying back rent, but also for hotel motel placements, and you enter all of that into the same HMIS program, we would not be able to differentiate which money was used for the prevention dollars or the emergency shelter dollars. So you would have to go in on the date of the 29th and complete paper surveys for anyone that is in using the monies for the emergency shelter or the hotel motel placement. Some tips for conducting the interview. Introduce yourself. Ask if the person has already taken the survey. If they have, there's no need to do it again. Let the respondent know that the answers are anonymous. As much as possible, if you can conduct it in a quiet and private space, that would be great. Try not to ask compound questions. Use the survey questions to guide your interview and ask clarifying questions if needed. Of course, be friendly, respectful, and polite, and thank the respondents for their time. The survey site identification. So this is at the top of the screen where it says code, county, agency, and program. This should be filled out for you. The codes should be filled out for you by your PIT coordinators. So if for some reason you get a completely blank survey, please reach out to your point in time coordinator and ask them what your agency code is. They should be getting you the surveys with that auto-populated, and then you can just fill out which county agency and program you are from. So for the survey questions, have you already participated in the 2020 survey? If they have, then you would not complete that survey. If they respond no, then you would go forward. For the first question, why did you spend the night of Tuesday, January 28th? Check one only. So we ask that you only check one here and you do not read the responses to the person you're interviewing. You would allow them to give you their answer and then you would categorize it appropriately. So for instance, if they stated that they were staying at the rescue mission last night, then you would put in emergency shelter. If they said I slept in my car, you would put on the street, under a bridge, abandoned building, public building. So we do ask that you let them give you the answer and then you categorize it appropriately. One thing to note here is that I would ask a clarifying question if they say that they stayed in a hotel motel, and you would want to know who paid for that. If it was paid for by the Board of Social Services, a church, an agency in the community, that would categorize them as homeless. But if, say, their mother or their brother or they themselves paid for their hotel motel stay last night, that would be permanent housing or at risk. So you just want to make a differentiation there. Number 2, in what town did you spend the night? We ask that you fill this out to the best of your ability. If the person was unsheltered, obviously you won't have a program or agency meeting. How long have you been in your current living situation? Ask them about their most recent continuous living situation. So for example, if they have been on and off homeless for 2 years, but they lost their housing most recently 2 weeks ago, it would be 14 days. If the person is in a shelter or a transitional housing program, then you would write the length of stay that they had been in that program. During the past 12 months, how many months have you been either on the streets in an emergency shelter or in a safe haven? For the safe haven, again, this is just for Morris County. So unless the person responds that they were staying in Morris County the night before, that's not going to be the appropriate answer. So you would just enter the number of full months of homelessness that the respondent has experienced during the last 12 months. If they have not been homeless in the last 12 months, you would enter zeros. For episodes of homelessness, how many separate times have you been on the street, in a shelter, or in a safe haven within the past 3 years? If they have not been homeless in the last 3 years, you would put 0 for episode 1 and then move on to the next question. If they state that they have been homeless on and off, you would enter the total number of months spent in each homeless location during each distinct episode. So each episode is separated by at least 7 days in a non-homeless location. So for instance, if someone states that they were living in an emergency shelter for the past 5 months, except that they went to their brother's, you would say, how long did you stay at your brother's? I stayed there for the weekend and he kicked me out. Then that would be the full 5 months of homelessness. If they said that they went to their brother's for 2 weeks a month ago, and then it didn't work out, then they would have 1 month in the homeless location for the first episode, and then you would backtrack from there. So what we are doing with this question is trying to determine if the person meets the definition of chronically homeless. So that would be that they have been out on the streets for at least 12 months continuously, or have had 4 separate episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years that equal up to 12 months, and then that they would also have a disability.
here is the HUD definition of a disability. So this is not a clinical question. We are not asking that you ask people if they have paperwork to support this, but if they state that they have some physical condition that prevents them from being able to work and has impeded their income and they have not been able to get housing due to that or sustain housing because of that, that is sufficient for the purposes of the survey.
Number 6, who was homeless with you on the night of January 28th? So this is kind of the tricky question that will take a little bit longer for you to get completed. So you're going to be completing these for anyone in the house, for anyone in the household. Line 1 is always for the person that you're interviewing, so that is always going to be the head of household. You're going to ask, first we're going to ask for the first initial, the middle initial, and the first 2 letters of the last name. Again, this is to avoid duplication, and so that we can identify if there are duplicate surveys. So be sure to inform anyone that you're interviewing that it is anonymous. If a household member has no middle initial, you can leave that blank. For the second section, you're going to be entering age, gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, and self-identified race. For age, and enter a numerical value. If someone is resistant and standing in front of you, use your best judgment. And again, if the head of household isn't sure of the age of someone in their household, they can guess at that. Same for gender. We have F for female, M for male, MTF for trans female, and FTM for trans male, as well as GNC for gender nonconforming. Sexual orientation is a new field this year. You will find in our abbreviations guide all of these abbreviations so that when you are completing these surveys in person, you will have that with you and be able to reference that. Again, we have H for heterosexual, D for gay, L for lesbian, DI for bisexual, Q for questioning round 4, and O for other. We ask that you don't ask this question to anyone that's not in front of you. So when you are interviewing the head of household, if there are 4 other household members that aren't with that person at the time, you would not ask this information and leave that blank. You would just ask it for the adults that are in front of you. We also ask if you are interviewing a family, don't ask this question about any minors. It just would not, it could create some family discord or speculation that's not the purpose of this question. So we just ask that any adults that are in front of you, you may ask this question of, and otherwise you would leave it blank. For self-identified race, you're going to write in what the person identifies as. So if the person says to you, I'm Dominican, you would write in Dominican. And then we also ask that you select from the following, and again, this is on your abbreviations guide. You would write in B for Black, African American, AI for American Indian, AS for Asian, PI for Pacific Islander or Native Hawaiian, and WH for White or Caucasian.
If someone from the Dominican could be Black, they could identify as white, or they could identify as multiracial. So we just want to make sure that we are able to code this appropriately when we are not putting the information into the report for HUD. So we would need to be sure that you are doing both the writing in the self-identified race as well as the category from HUD racial categories. If the respondent is Hispanic, ask that they choose a race from the list above in addition to identifying as Hispanic or Latino. For ethnicity, again, that's going to be Hispanic or non-Hispanic. If the respondent gives no response for household members, get at least the gender and age for each. And then the last 2 questions were disabling conditions and subpopulations.
I'm not going to review all the definitions of mental health, physical health, or developmental disabilities. They are in your quick reference guide, which again is on Monarch's website or can be available to you via email. What I do want to point out is that you are asking this to the head of household and about household members. We ask that if they are unsure that if their household members have any other disabling conditions, you would just leave that blank. We don't want anyone guessing as to any disabling conditions. So you would check off all that apply. For subpopulations, we are looking for persons who have served in the U.S. Army or anyone that is fleeing domestic violence. So the most important checkbox here is none apply. So if someone says that none of these apply to them and you leave it blank, we will think that the person did not answer. So you have to check none apply if none apply. This is an example of a completed household chart.
Question number 7, where was your last permanent address before becoming homeless? You would just fill in as appropriate. If no response is given, you will leave that blank.
What was your residence prior to your current living situation? This is a check one only, so please don't read the answers. Just let the person respond, and then you would again categorize as appropriate. If the respondent's answer isn't listed or doesn't fall into one of these categories, please write in other, and please write that as legibly as possible for those that are inputting it into further ID for them. What was the primary factor that contributed to or caused our current living situation? You're going to check one only. So again, if the person responds, you would then categorize it as appropriate. You can ask clarifying questions here. The person says that they were evicted. You could ask them why. They said they stopped paying their rent because they lost your job. Then the more appropriate answer might be loss or reduction of job income is the reason for their current homelessness. Question number 10, what is your total monthly household income? This is all earned income for household members 18 or older, or all non-earned income for household members 17 or younger. So if there's a minor in the household that collects Social Security, disability, or then that would be counted into the monthly household income, but you would not count maybe wages from a part-time job for a minor in the household. This also does not include any food stamps. Question number 11, which of the following do you or anyone in your household receive? You would check all that apply, so that means that you can read these off and check any that the person is receiving. So the two bottom ones, no source of income or receiving no government benefits. If you leave this blank, we think they did not respond. So if the person does in fact have no income or is not receiving any benefits, be sure to check that off. And the last question, would you or anyone in your household like to receive any of the following services? This is a check all that apply. So you can check off any and read off all of these to the respondent that you're interviewing. If they are interested in any of them, please check them off. And if there is some kind of resource that they're looking for that is not there, you have the option to write in other. Again, be sure to thank the respondent for their time. Once the survey is complete, we ask that you check all answers and make sure that they are complete and legible, and then you would input and submit the information from all paper surveys into your New Jersey Counts 2020 online SurveyMonkey tool. If you have not heard from your point-in-time coordinators about the SurveyMonkey tool, just reach out to them. Your site or your community might do all of the inputting themselves, or they may expect that each agency does it for themselves. So again, be sure to reach out to your point-in-time coordinators with any clarifying questions about inputting into SurveyMonkey. All paper surveys, once completed in input, should be turned into a local point-in-time coordinator. And for any more guidance on submitting the data online, see the data collection guide. So for this, entering the point-in-time data online, this is going to go through how to input that information into SurveyMonkey. For the paper surveys, again, we are asking that about the night of January 28th until January 29th. The data submissions deadline into SurveyMonkey is Monday, February 10th by 5 p.m. The online survey will open on Wednesday, January 22nd for any Board of Social Services and non-HMIS participating transitional housing programs. So for those programs that anticipate that persons will definitely be in their program for the additional week. For HMIS, Monday, February 3rd, Monarch will pull the initial HMIS data for comparison and verification. So by Friday, February 7th, verify the accuracy of your HMIS data. And the shelter summary form is due to us Friday, January 31st at 5 p.m. Inputting the data online. You're going to click the link that was emailed to you for the survey. So be sure you are following the link for the live survey. A practice survey went out earlier in December. So just double check that you are entering into the correct SurveyMonkey link. It's recommended that one person from each agency enter the survey data to reduce any data entry differences from person to person. If more than one person will be entering the data, it is suggested they agree upon a uniform data entry process. And if a question requires an answer but the respondent did not respond, or a question was left blank, you would select no response. If question number 1 or the gender or age fields in question 6 are blank, do not input that survey. So note that every question with an asterisk must be answered in order to move on to the next page of the survey. When you complete all questions on pages 1, 2, or 3 of the survey, click the Next button at the bottom of the screen. To go back, click the Previous button. If you're returned to the page you just completed, you might have missed a question, so find that and complete it. Please enter the codes listed at the top of the paper survey and enter the correct information into each box. For question number 1, you're going to check off one option. If it's other, you can type in the response that was written in. For question number 2, you're going to select the name of the county where the respondent stated they spent the night. If there was no response, you're going to select no response. Again, don't forget to write in the name of the program and agency if it's there. So once you select that county, so for instance, we selected Union County here, the towns in Union County are going to auto-populate, so then you would select the town. How long have you been in your current living situation? This is a drop-down. So you will select the appropriate response from the drop-down, and if no answer is given, you would select no response. Simplify the data entry by using all 3 units, years, months, and days, to give the most complete answer. So if someone said 18 months, you would put in 1 year and 6 months. If the respondent said 45 days, it would be 1 month and 15 days. For question number 4, you're going to enter the number of months during the last 12 months that the person has spent either on the streets, in an emergency shelter, in a safe haven. If the respondent has not been in a homeless situation, you would select 0. If there was no response, again, you would select no response. This is another drop down, so you're going to select the numbers appropriate to the survey that you're entering. Again, there's the option for 0 or for no response, depending on the survey. For question number 6, as you can see, you're going to have to scroll to your right to go through all of the information. Your row numbers associate with each household person. So row 1 would be the head of household, and then you would identify the relationship to the head of household below, and complete for all household members that were identified. So for row 1, you're always going to want to select the head of household and then complete as appropriate. First initial, middle initial, you can select none if they do not have a middle initial, or you can put in their middle initial or leave it as no response. For race, you're going to check all that apply. So if this section is left blank for a household member on the paper survey, or if there is no response, you would check no response. Again, if multiple racial identities were informed, then you would check off all that apply. So then you're going to have a separate text box where you can type in the self-identified race. So you would type in for any household members what their self-identified race is. If they have multiple racial identities, you would enter in all the responses. If you keep scrolling to the right, you're going to see that this is going to be what your screen looks like. So you will enter in the drop down for the gender, again for the same for the sexual orientation and ethnicity, and all of those abbreviations that were on your abbreviation and quick reference guides, they're going to be in the drop downs. For the disabling conditions and subpopulations, you check off all that apply. If there was no response given and the entire thing is blank, you would check off the no response in the Survey Monkey. But if none apply was checked off, just be sure to, those last 2 columns are very important. So be sure that you're checking off no response for anything that's blank and none apply if that was what was indicated on the survey. Every field for the head of household on line 1 will have to be completed before you go down to line 2. So you're going to go all the way across to the right for line 1, and then you'll be allowed to move on and input the data for the person on line 2. Check and make sure that all the household information is entered accurately for each household member before you click next. Question number 7, what was your last permanent address? Be sure to enter all the information for town, county, state, and country. You're going to get a drop down. So again, like we did before when you selected Union County a couple slides ago, and then the townships were auto-populated, this is what's going to happen again. So you're going to select the most accurate, no response, USA, or out of country. If you select USA, then you will get drop-downs options for the country, state, and county. Only applicable to New Jersey will you get the county information. But any other states you would be able to type in. And then again, if you select out of country, you would get the option to type in the country's name that the person resided in. If no response is given, you select no response. So this is illustrating if you selected USA and then you selected the state New Jersey, it would give you all of the counties in New Jersey and the option to write in the town. Question 8 is a check one only, so you only have the option to select one response here, or you can write in other. Question 9 is the same. You would check whichever option was appropriate that caused your current living situation. Number 10, you would type in the numerical value of the total monthly household income. Remember, again, this does not include food stamps. The number should reflect the total monthly income of all household members 18 or older and all unearned income for household members under 17. For question 11, you can check all that apply. So you can check multiple questions off here. Just take a look, as you can see, the no source of income that was on the bottom left hand of the
survey is actually up the top of the right. So if the person did identify no source of income, just be sure that you're checking that off in the top of the right column. And the receiving no government benefits is the second to last in the right column, with no response being last. So if this was recognized, you would check off that no response box. And again, if the person has no income and is receiving no benefits, just be sure you're checking off the no source of income and receiving no government benefits. For question 12, would you or anyone in your household like to receive any of the following services? You're going to check all that apply, and if no response is given, you would select no response. So once you've finished the survey, if you're sure that the information is accurate and up to date, you would click done. Once you click done, you are not able to change that survey. If the survey is fully completed, you'll see a screen that says thank you for participating in Android 2020, indicating that your answers have been successfully submitted. If you don't see this screen, then the information has not yet been uploaded, so find any missing answers and complete them, then click done. This is the thank you screen that you will see. If a significant error needs to be corrected after this point, please contact us at Monarch with the
identifier information for the survey so that we can go back in and find that survey and make the corrections as needed. If you would like to enter another survey, you would click done at the bottom of the screen, and this will bring you back to the start. So this is the portion of the training for those that are entering data into HMIS, any sheltering agencies, emergency shelter or transitional housing or hotel motel placement. So the first thing you're going to do is complete a shelter summary form, and you're going to send that to Monarch on January 31st by 5 p.m. Again, this is just giving you those count dates again. We will be pulling the HMIS data on Monday, February 3rd. So we ask that you verify and finalize. We'll be doing our first HMIS data pull on Monday, February 3rd. So be sure that everything is finalized and up to date by Friday, February 7th, so that when we do our final data pull, we can make sure that everything is accurate. Ensure that the accurate information is entered for all program participants. For January 28th to the 29th, be sure that both individual and household level information is accurate, and update household income to reflect the current information accurately. Don't change current emission information, just conduct an update. Contact your HMIS provider if you're experiencing difficulties. Every question should have an answer. The rest of there are no missing fields, unknown, data not collected, client doesn't know unless they really do. During interview, any clients if you need to, be careful when entering birthdays and monthly income. Be sure that those numbers are accurate, and ensure that all household members are recorded properly. Self-identified race and sexual orientation information will need to be uploaded in HMIS for all program participants, because this is not a part of your normal face or intake process. So we have actually created a form. So when you're uploading HMIS,
If you want to pull up your HMIS, you can.
Reference this guide as needed. You're going to go to the profile. Be sure you're in the correct program. You're going to go to the profile and then the face sheet. You ensure that everything is entered in accurately here. And then at the top, you're going to be able to select from the forms. I'm sorry, this is a little blurry at the top here, but you would collect the plus sign so that you get this drop-down menu, and you're going to select the Point in Time 2020 link and click that, and it will bring you to this page. You're going to click Update in Point in Time 2020 section, and you will get the option for sexual orientation as a drop-down, and you will be able to fill out as accurately as possible to whatever was written into that box. And then for self-identified race, you would just write that in and hit save. This is what it will look like when that form is complete. So you just be sure, if you have any questions, please call us at Monarch, or you can call your HMIS provider, and they will be able to walk you through this with no problem. So for cross-survey deduplication, the fields that we use are name, age, birth date if available, gender, race, ethnicity, and household members. So be sure that all disabling conditions and subpopulations are up to date. Update any information if it's changed since the initial interview. So if someone's come into your shelter a month ago
And recently saw a doctor and was diagnosed with COPD, we just ask that you would update that information to be accurate for the date of the point in time as well. So again, the disability definition is not what the Social Security Administration defines it as. We're just looking to see if a person's condition is of long duration and would benefit from supportive housing. For types of the disability question, identifying the disability, self-report, or your knowledge of the client. Does this person need or would they benefit from supportive housing? If the answer is yes, check the box indicating expected to be of long,
continued, and indefinite duration, and substantially impairs ability to live independently. For veteran status, if they've ever served in the armed forces, this is not concerned with the technical definition of a veteran, and there's no time requirement for the service in order to qualify. And again, assure any clients that stating yes will not prevent them from receiving any services. For victims of domestic violence, we're trying to capture those who are currently fleeing. So whether the household is fleeing is up to the client to discern. There are no specific time frame requirements to qualify as fleeing. Information is pulled from the question, are you currently fleeing? So this field should not contain data not collected. Client refused. Client doesn't know. Again, unless they really do refuse or really don't know. The approximate date homelessness started. We are asking this question to determine a person's chronic homeless status. So locally, the chronic homeless status impacts how quickly the person can access any supportive housing opportunities. So be sure that that field is filled in accurately. For the point in time, it provides a chance to show HUD how well we are doing at ending chronic homelessness, and for local planning, it serves as an indicator as to how well your system is functioning and points out the need to replicate successful models or refocus energies to fix an issue that is impacting the process. So what you're asking is, when did their current episode of homelessness begin, and how long has this person been homeless in other locations prior to coming to you for assistance? So the definition of homelessness, the person has stayed on the street in an emergency shelter, transitional housing program, or safe haven. It's not asking about when the last time you had your name on a lease or paid rent was, how long they've been couch surfing, or how long they've been living in substandard housing, or how long you've felt homeless. Be clear about what you mean by homeless. So how long have you been on the streets in another shelter, transitional housing program, or safe haven before coming here today? You can probe further once they provide a date. Since that period, have there been any times you've stayed with family, friends in a rooming house, boarding home, apartment you paid for, or had a hotel room you paid for longer than 7 days? If they answer yes, you would follow up with when was the last time you stayed in one of those places, and approximately what date did you leave from that last day. You use the most recent date provided as the approximate date homelessness started. The number of times the client has been on the streets, in emergency shelter, or safe haven in the past 3 years, including today. Don't ask how many times they've been homeless. Ask detailed questions that get you an accurate answer. So in the last 3 years, how many times have you been on the street? In the last 3 years, how many times have you been in an emergency shelter? How many times have you been in a safe haven? The total number of months homeless on the street, in emergency shelter, or safe haven in the past 3 years. You're not asking how many months they've been homeless. You're asking more detailed questions, saying you said you were homeless on the street 3 times, in emergency shelter 2 times in the last 3 years. The first time, how many months were you on the street? What about the second time? And so on. You would do the calculation of the total number of months homeless for the client. Don't expect them to do that mental math. And you would reaffirm the information you've heard from them with verifying questions. So as I understand it, you were in a shelter 2 times, 2 months for the first day, and so on and so forth. So that would mean you've been homeless for a total of 8 months in the last 3 years. Does that sound correct to you? For income and benefits, be sure to identify each source and the amount associated with that source. You would update records for clients that have been in your program for a while. So anyone that's receiving SSI or SSD, make sure your annual updates are in. Be sure you're identifying each source of non-cash benefits or health insurance coverage. Update to reflect whatever is accurate for your clients now. Ensure the benefits make sense for the household. So a single adult shouldn't have children's state health insurance, or a single adult shouldn't have TANF. If a person says they receive a VA pension but did not identify themselves as a veteran, something isn't accurate. For cause of homelessness, probe a bit just to get as close to the root cause as possible. Again, if they said they got evicted, you would follow up with why did you get evicted. If they disclose they went to jail, then under the cause of homelessness, you can select release from prison or jail. For the last permanent address, use the zip code. Be sure it's the zip code for the town they identify, not the program you work for. And you would write, again, then select the city and town of the permanent address, please, as well as the county. Again, don't put the county that they are currently staying in. Make sure it's the county that they say they last lived in. So for the HMIS dates, you've already submitted, I hope, your HMIS programs for the point in time. Please submit the shelter summary forms by January 31st. That initial data pull is going to be Monday, February 3rd. The cleanup can go on your end until February 7th, 2020, and then on Friday, February 7th, Monarch will be doing that last data pull. If you are unsure about how to update or correct your data in HMIS, and your COC subscribes to Foothold Awards HMIS software, please see HMIS's training or HMFA's HMIS training resources on entering additional household members, processing new intakes, or you can contact NJHMIS. If you have any questions, please contact your local point-in-time coordinator, reference your point-in-time webinars, and if you still have any questions, please refer to our website where the materials are located, as well as you can email us at njcontact@monarchhousing.org or 908-272-5363 extension 242, and you can call us with any questions. Thank you very much for your participation today. And again, if you have any questions, we look forward to hearing from you.